Hello, I'm George LeMieux. I have the privilege of being the chairman of the board of the Gunster law firm. And today you're watching Gunster's View from the Top with my friend and the president and CEO of Florida Power and Light, Eric Silagy. Eric, welcome.
Thanks, George. It's great to be with you.
Great to have you. Eric wears a lot of hats besides his formal one of running Florida Power and Light. He also is on the board of governors for our state university system. He's the vice chair of Enterprise, or on the executive committee of Enterprise Florida, and the vice chair of the Council of 100, which is a group of civic leaders that assist the governor and other state leaders in forming policy. So it's our privilege to have you here today. Eric, I want to start with hurricane season. We are right in the middle of it. It's a big deal in Florida. No one knows that more than you. I've been so impressed over the years how you and FPL have responded to our storms. You set up an emergency command center that looks like you're the state or federal government in what you do. Talk to us about the efforts that Florida Power and Light has made in hardening and making sure that your customers, the people of Florida, can get back up and running after a storm.
Yeah, thanks, George, for that. You're right. We are right in the middle of what is predicted to be a very active, unfortunately, hurricane season. We've already seen a number of storms, most out to sea, fortunately, but already we've had one that impacted Florida, Elsa, which was the earliest E hurricane ever to hit the United States. And so, I hope the predictions are wrong, but we are prepared as if they are right, and that is for a season that is actually more active than last year. Every year we prepare for storm season, not with the we hope there's no hurricanes, but we have to plan as if there's always going to be an impact to Florida. And so we train and we drill and we prepare actually all year long for the inevitable hurricane that will hit Florida. Because look, the reality is it's not a question of are we going to have a hurricane, it's just when and where and how strong will it be. And so we get the whole organization in a mindset of being prepared for storm season really year round. And so part of that is getting inventory levels up as we enter into hurricane season to make sure that we have the equipment, the supplies necessary to respond should we get hit by hurricane. We actually staff up from an inventory standpoint to a Category 4 storm hitting our entire service territory. So wow. The amount of fuses and poles and wires. And then we actually have a dry run every year where we have all of our employees have storm assignments, and we typically have about 3,000 engaged in a drill the first week of May typically. And in the last year and a half, unfortunately, we've also had to drill for responding to a hurricane in the middle of a global pandemic. And how do you do that? And how do you bring in crews from out of state and keep them safe also in a COVID world? How do you feed them? How do you house them? How do you make sure that they're able to get the job done and then also safely be able to go home to their families after the storm is over? So it's been a challenge, but it really comes down to just preparation and trying to anticipate everything that you can possibly think of. And unfortunately, as you know, we have a lot of experience in this, both responding here in Florida, and then we send our crews to wherever help is needed around the country. We've gone as far as California to help on the wildfires, and from every single event, you actually learn. You come away with lessons that really help you get better, and so we incorporate those. We have a formal process for doing that. We train and we drill for everything we can anticipate. So in the end, you end up building what I call bandwidth, if you will, to deal with the unexpected. Because the one thing I've learned is every storm is different. Mother Nature will always throw curveballs at you. She's unpredictable, whether it's tornadoes that spin off or microbursts, hail that comes in suddenly, feeder bands that are unexpected, storm surge, and then of course you throw in the human element, and people react differently, and we have crazy, we have people who go out in the middle of drive in the middle of a hurricane and they run in one of our poles, and so, all kind of crazy things. But look, I feel blessed to be part of a team that is truly dedicated to getting the lights back on as quickly and as safely as possible. It is a business that will kill you instantly if you do it incorrectly. And so safety is our #1 priority. But our goal is to get people back up on their feet as quickly as possible. And, electricity is so ubiquitous in everything we do now in our lives that we understand we have a duty to do everything we can to get Florida back up on her feet as quickly as we can. So we bring a lot of resources in, we deploy before the storm hits, we hunker down, we ride the storm out, and as soon as the winds hit 35 miles an hour or less, we're out in the field trying to get the lights on.
Well, we really appreciate it. And one of the things I've always admired about your company, because we have the privilege of doing some work with you all, is that everybody in your company, I believe, has a second job that they have to do potentially. So you'll have folks who are in your legal shop who are, out there trained on something else out in the field after a hurricane to make sure that everybody gets their power back. So that's a great lesson for all of us. I think a lot of our businesses would do great if everybody had to learn a second skill.
Well, we have everybody's got a storm responsibility. Sometimes that actually means staying back in the office and filling in for the people who have to leave. But yeah, I've had Ivy League MBAs who are doing laundry for the linemen to make sure that they can have a fresh change of clothes every day because they're working 16-hour days, and I want them focused on nothing but getting the lights on. So we all have our jobs, and it's all being part of the team. And you kind of know that when you sign up to be part of FPL and the FPL family is, you have to be ready for storm season, because when you're called, you're expected to, make sure your family is safe, and then you're expected to walk out that door and to be gone until, the lights are back on. And that's just part of the job. It's a lot like, frankly, being a first responder or being in the military. And so the families understand that too. It really is a family issue, because it's a stress on children at home and spouses who get left behind because their spouse walks out the door to go help others. But they all take great pride in doing it, and like I said, we have a duty to serve, and we take it very, very seriously.
Well, we appreciate it. Let me change gears with you, Eric. I want to talk to you about something that Florida Power and Light has been doing for a long time, and that is being involved in alternative energy. I believe I read that back since the 1980s, you've been involved in solar power, and now you're one of the leading companies, power providers in the country in providing energy through solar power. So can you talk a little bit about Florida Power and Light's initiatives on solar energy?
Yeah. Actually, as a company now, NextEra, which is Florida Power and Light, and our sister company, NextEra Energy Resources, we're the largest producer of electricity in the world, from wind, solar, and now we're using batteries more than anybody in the world also to help store that and provide power when it's needed most. But on the solar side in Florida, our first solar facility was actually built in 1984 in Miami. Now, it was tiny because it was really expensive at the time.
Right.
I mean, basically,
the solar panels were this thick and cost a lot of money.
NASA was using solar, and that was pretty much it. So, but we wanted to understand the technology. I don't even think of us as an electric utility. We're really a technology company that delivers power. And that culture of embracing technology is something that permeates everything that we do. So we started looking at alternative technologies a long, long time ago, but always trying to balance it with the economics, because there are a lot of things you can do that work in a lab, but economically, they really don't make sense, right? To use an extreme example, I could get rid of all the landfills in Florida if we were willing to put all of our garbage on, rocket ships out of the Space Coast, which Frank would love because we'd have lots of launches, and we could launch all of our trash to the sun and it would burn up. That's technically possible today. It's just economically unfeasible. So it's finding that balance of what you can do and then also making sure that it's commercially viable. And so over the years, we've really worked to get solar to become commercially viable. And what's happened is because of a much wider adoption, and to be perfectly honest, because manufacturing really started to bloom outside the United States, really in Asia, where labor prices are cheaper, solar panel prices came down, and we're now able to install large solar facilities in Florida at a price that actually reduces power bills for customers, because we're not burning any fuel and we're not using any water. And of course, we're not producing any emissions, which there's no technically economic benefit for that, but it is the right thing to do for climate change and for future generations. So we've gone from a little tiny facility that was really a science experiment to now having 42 huge facilities that are currently in operation. Each one of these facilities covers 500 acres, over 300,000 panels. And as of last month, we're more than 40% there. So we're way ahead of schedule. I'm also proud of the fact that we're under budget. And we are, I'd say marching, but it almost feels like a sprint. We are installing more solar than anybody in America right here in Florida. So Florida's becoming the global leader in solar, but we're also doing it affordably. And to me, that's really important because electricity needs to be clean, it needs to be reliable, but it also needs to be affordable. And for those who say it can't be, clean and affordable, I say, look at us, and I disagree respectfully because our bills are 30% below the national average, and we've got one of the cleanest emissions profiles in the country. And last year, we were the most reliable electric utility in America.
Well, it's really exciting, and for the Sunshine State to be the leader in solar power makes all the sense in the world. I remember a time when folks were telling us, oh, it's too cloudy in Florida, we don't have enough ability to generate solar power, and you were one of the people back then who said that's ridiculous. And Florida Power and Light's done such a wonderful job, so thank you. Eric, while I have you, you sit in a unique seat. I mentioned before all of the posts that you serve in government and volunteer leadership positions. You sit in a unique seat to look at the state of Florida and think about our future. One of the things that you're working on in the Council of 100 is evaluating Florida's ability to compete and be competitive in the future, to make sure this is the best place to start a business, the best place to raise a family. Talk to us about where you see the state of Florida going. What are the strengths that we have, and what are the things that we need to work on to even be more competitive?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I'm very bullish on Florida generally because in a post-pandemic world, I think we are really positioned right now to be extraordinarily successful, particularly when you look at how Florida compares to many other states that we would compete against, if you will, economically, particularly, and the challenges they face, particularly the financial challenges and the structural challenges that they have, that their governments over time and their population have put in place. Look, Florida is a great place to do business on a lot of levels. We are predictable and stable from a regulatory environment, and any company that comes in and is investing needs that predictability and that stability in order to make those investment decisions. We are a low tax state, which means that more of the benefits that a company generates, they're able to keep and frankly reinvest back into the business rather than handing it over to government. We have a balanced budget and an A-rated balance sheet as a state. That is incredibly important because again, it means that companies as well as residents can feel good about the fact that they're not going to get surprised with suddenly getting a bill because the state can't afford to meet obligations going forward. We've continued to invest in infrastructure in many areas, which I think actually gives us an advantage. We have great rail and highway systems. Our ports are among the best in the world. We've continued to invest in those. Miami's a great example of the first port in the Eastern Seaboard to be Panamax ready. So we have some structural and inherent advantages: a right to work state, a very diverse workforce that speaks hundreds of languages natively, and so I think from that perspective we are really well positioned. We are also a state that enjoys organic growth. In other words, people are moving to Florida. On average, about 900 people a day are coming to Florida. That's both an advantage, but if you don't actually manage that, it can become a problem. And so I do worry about making sure that the state is thinking not just short term, but importantly long term. And that's really where the challenge comes into place. How are we going to meet the needs of an estimated 6+ million people who are going to migrate to Florida in the next decade or less? Probably less based on what we're seeing with people coming here. And so how are we going to meet their needs from transportation, water, electricity? schools, housing that is affordable, you name it. There's a whole series of areas that, growth not properly managed can really bite you. And so I believe it's our job, all of us who are in a position of leadership, to be really thoughtful about this today and thinking about how we can invest today for the next generation to be successful. I mean, look, George, I'm blessed. I came from a family who came from very little. My parents worked their whole lives to really give my brother and myself opportunities that they just never had. And so maybe I'm a little bit of a dinosaur this way, but I just think that means I have a duty to do the same thing for future generations. We should be setting the future generations of Florida up for success rather than having them inherit a mess that they have to figure out how to fix. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to be proactive on this and to really address these issues. And there are no quick soundbite solutions. That's the challenge that we all face. We all have gotten to where, instant gratification, get your cell phone out, get the answer, 30-second soundbite solution. That's not really how it works, particularly on big infrastructure issues like this. And so we need to have the hard conversations, recognizing that there's rarely the perfect solution, but being willing to actually embrace what needs to be done, even if don't let good or get in the way of perfect. You don't need to be perfect on this, but we need to be, I think, proactive and making sure Florida is thinking 5 and 10 and 15 years down the road.
Well, we appreciate the good work that you're doing on that. I know how much time you spend on Enterprise Florida and the state university system and the Council of 100. So thank you for doing that. We look forward to hearing what you'll come up with to help advise our state leaders, and appreciate all the good work you do at Florida Power and Light. And thanks for being on Gunster's View from the Top.
Appreciate everything you do, George. Appreciate what Gunster does as well. It's a pleasure to work with you and your whole team. And again, I think if we all work together and pull together, Florida benefits, and if Florida grows, we're all better off. So it's a real pleasure, and I appreciate being on today.
Yeah, amen to that. Thanks so much, Eric. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.